Do you remember this classic acting class exercise? You're partnered up with another actor, and they stand in front of you. Then, without warning, they fall back into your outstretched arms, whereupon you catch them, thus preventing them from hitting the ground. It's called the trust exercise. The idea is to rely on each other to build confidence in your partner. Well, today we need to talk about falling back, building trust and confidence. Happening in this episode of Casting Actors Cast.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors from a casting director. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting director Jeffrey Dreisbach. I'm a casting partner with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a really good day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit about the term falling back, because I think we can apply it to what's happening right now. But first, this is that moment of the exercise where I get to say thank you so much for tuning into Casting Actors Cast. It's a real pleasure having you. And guess what? We're just about 1 centimeter from 80,000 downloads of the podcast, and I couldn't be more grateful. So listen, if you haven't checked out the website, I encourage you to do so. It's castingactorscast.com. Real simple, all one word, castingactorscast.com. There you're going to find all kinds of interesting information about the podcast. You'll see all of the podcast providers, but also there's a form there that says dive into the talent pool. If you decide that that's something you want to do, I encourage you to do so. It's going to open up a menu of some freebies after you give me your name and email address, and you can leave a comment or a question if you like as well. But guess what? That's going to open up 3 things that are absolutely free for you right away. One is a book that I wrote called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. It's a 100-page PDF on doing voiceover work, based on all of the workshops that I've taught throughout the country at colleges and universities. In fact, some colleges and universities are still using them in their curriculum. That particular book, you can have it free of charge. Additionally, there is a video called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. But guess what? I'm going to tell you in this free 20-minute video as well. Finally, there's Jeff's Jots, and those are corresponding show notes that you can have. When you listen to the episode, you can have those show notes right in front of you. So a lot of folks have found that to be a really helpful way to retain a lot of the information that these podcasts are given. The whole purpose of doing these podcasts is that I have an opportunity to give back what wasn't given to me when I was an actor. I acted professionally for 20 years before I jumped over into the casting side of things. And guess what? I haven't looked back. I'm enjoying all of the casting that's taking place right now. And we are busy, busy, busy. So I'm glad you're here. Sit back, relax, and listen to the subject matter for today, which is fall back. And finally, my shout out to my friends at Actors Connection. Colleen and Tony at Actors Connection are just great people. If you haven't checked out Actors Connection, I encourage you to do so. Actors Connection is providing workshops and classes and seminars, and there's some free stuff. There's a Facebook group. There's all kinds of activities. So if you're feeling kind of left out, like there's not really a lot in your world as far as acting is concerned, check out Actors Connection, because you're going to find some free stuff. You're going to find some classes, webinars. There's all kinds of really neat things. I have the pleasure of teaching a few classes there as well, and so maybe you might want to consider jumping into one of my classes at Actors Connection. That's actorsconnection.com/New York. All right, let's jump into the subject now, shall we? When we talk about falling back, I alluded to the trust exercise of when the person that's standing in front of you falls back and you catch them. And the whole idea is that you trust that the person behind you is going to be there. Also, I think the metaphor is great if you think about it for falling back, meaning what is your backup plan? What plans do you have for this new season? So when I say fall back, it really means getting back into the fall. What I mean is the season, not the action of falling. So we're going to take that a step further, and let's talk about some trust statements that might be really helpful. You know, I love the fall. I love the change of seasons. I love the putting on the woolly sweater. I love all of those. It feels refreshing to me. It's like a new beginning. The summer is hot and sticky and whatever, and it's great when you want it. It's great when you go from spring into summer. But now that summer's over, it's really kind of a nice renewal. I mean, there's a reason why Halloween happens in the fall. That's when the harvest is finished and you have something to celebrate. So here are some trust statements that I think might be helpful as we consider falling back. What I really am trying to say, I guess, is getting back into a routine, leaving the summer behind and looking forward to getting a fresh start. And by that, I'm thinking a fresh approach for building your acting career. So think of it as a new beginning for yourself as you evaluate where you are now and where you would like to be. So here's another statement that I think is useful. Creative structure is better for your creativity. Instead of thinking, okay, the fall is here and I'm ready, let's see what happens. It's really valuable if you plan ahead. Creative structure really means surrounding yourself with those little discipline moments and things that you can do for yourself that can make a difference in your career. So here's one example. Actor's checklist. I love the idea of making a list of all of those things that you just know you need to address for a new season of activity. Obviously, your picture, your resume, your social media. Have you been attentive to the social media? If not, why not? How about your demos, whether voiceover demos or maybe you've had some bookings and you filmed some things and you put them together in a demo? Maybe that demo needs freshening up. How's your website? What classes are you hoping to take? What mentors or teachers are you really happy with and working with? Now you've got that checklist. That's going to give you something to take a good hard look at. What needs changing? What needs adjusting? Now, recall the trust exercise that we talked about in the beginning, because the support you will get from the checklist is the support you get when you fall back. You see what I'm saying? When you have a good picture that you know is going to work well for you, that looks good as a thumbnail, when you have a well-constructed resume that's easy to read, and by the way, there are lots of podcasts I've done on good resume writing, so you may want to listen to some of those. But putting all of those ducks in a row really is a supportive way to surround yourself with good structure. Now, I know you've heard this phrase, so forgive me for repeating it ad nauseum here, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So the first step is simply to make a list. I can't stress enough the importance of simply making a list of those things that you think maybe you should take a look at. Maybe these are things that you could renew in your acting toolkit, so to speak. So the importance of lists are simple. Again, it's a structured way of taking a look at where you are and comparing that to where you need to be. So that's why I think the importance of lists cannot be understated, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Next, I want you to take stock of where you are right now and where you want to be. You see, goals are simply not items to be reached, in my opinion. Because when you set yourself up with goals, I want to get an agent within this fall. I'm going to get an agent. And it doesn't happen. Well, then you're sort of defeating yourself. You're sort of putting yourself in a different mindset. So I don't think the goals that I'm talking about are the ones that have to have these achievable checklists on your list. But rather, I think of goals as guideposts of where you would like to be moving forward. Where would you like to be in this fall season? How many auditions would you like to have? You can say to yourself, well, I'm going to get, 5 auditions in the next month. Well, there are other situational things that are in control, perhaps, that might not allow you to reach that goal. But if the guideposts sentiment is, I am going to work towards us getting as many auditions as I can and be available for them. See, that's a guidepost. That means that you're not doing a definitive, finite statement, but what you are doing is setting yourself up for success because you have an open-ended agreement with yourself. So think about that. I think that that's a much healthier way of taking a look because, like I said, goals are not items to be reached, but they're guideposts for you. Let's move on to another falling back exercise for yourself. And this is on a personal nature. And I can't stress enough the importance and the beauty of good sleep. Don't you love sleeping in the fall? I don't know where you are, but, here in the Northeast, the fall kind of happens and these cool, almost chilly nights happen. And that's when you feel so comforted and you've got yourself covered up under the covers and you get a decent night's sleep. It seems like it happens so much more often in the fall, doesn't it? So the beauty of a good night's sleep, listen, there's too many studies out there to dispute this, but most of us are not getting enough sleep. Honestly, 7 to 8 hours of sleep is really the magic number for you to shoot for. Now, if you are a theater person and you're up late, that might be more challenging. I get it. But if you are definitely in a routine that is not getting you the full complement hours of sleep, then this is something you probably should take a look at and maybe see if you can change that aspect of getting good sleep, because it's going to make a significant difference in your physical self, your mental and emotional self as well. Here's the next kind of personal fallback item, and that's nutrition. Eating well, taking a look at your diet, making sure that you're doing everything you can to keep and stay as healthy as you are. Again, this is not about, shaking a finger and body shaming or doing anything like that. But are you healthy? Are you doing those kinds of things in your eating habits that are the best that can be done for you now? Don't set yourself up for failure by saying, I'm going to be on this diet. We know diets don't work. It's really about exercise and good nutrition and just common sense. So I'm not arguing with you and I'm not lecturing you either. But take a look at that. This is a great time to really say, maybe I can make some adjustments that can make me and help me feel better. Now, along those same lines, and again, I've said this in many podcasts, but I'm not a therapist. But I understand what seasonal depression is. And I also understand that depression is one of those things that seems to be, and this is my opinion, that seems to be more sensitive for the creative person. Hope that makes sense. Creative people have a tendency, because of their own sensibilities and sensitivities, oftentimes they're more susceptible to those areas in our life that are emotionally challenging, and sometimes they can be psychologically debilitating as well, very difficult. Seasonal depression is a real thing. And so I kind of want to put a shout out and for you to be asking yourself, am I doing everything I can do in the healthiest possible way? That includes your mental health as well. Now, I just did a podcast, our last podcast, about talking about potential. So I want you to stop thinking potential. I'm going to make this really work. Potential is just that word, in my opinion, is fraught with too much emotional baggage. And so remove yourself from that word and not thinking about your potential, but start thinking in terms of moment to moment. Now, listen, I know you've heard that from directors and acting class, moment to moment. Thank you, Meisner technique, right? But here's the thing. When I'm saying moment to moment, I say most of the time when I'm feeling frustrated, when I'm feeling emotionally spent, when I am in a funk, I can promise you 99% of the time, I'm thinking about something that has happened in the past or something that might happen in the future. And because I'm not in the moment, I allow myself, and therefore my emotional roller coaster, to kick in. When I'm really focused on what's happening in the present moment, there's very little room for any of those depressive signs or any of those emotional challenges to kick my butt at that time. So, practicing moment-to-moment work is great for your acting, but guess what? I have found it's also great for your life. Now listen, considering what we've had to deal with over the past few years, it's no wonder that we might have trouble understanding what the trust exercise is all about. Because when we did that trust exercise, it was in an acting class, and somebody needed us, and we needed somebody else. But after all, how do we put our trust into a weird time like this that seems so unstable and so unsure? Well, here's the answer. Surrounding ourselves with solid structure and routine is a great method to secure our creativity. Once we find that daily routine and our logical goal setting, then we can flourish within that structure and gain confidence and trust. So, listen, this fall, I want you to consider falling back. You will be caught. You will be supported. Keep listening to Casting Actors Cast, will ya? I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.